Gardens in bloom.
Oh,
Dang, I have any plants?
okay.
Any flowers?
Wait, we haven't
Gardens
updated
in
this.
bloom.
Are we following the same script?
I updated it.
Say it again.
I updated it. It should be the same page.
I still see episode 4 holding the king.
Say what?
All right, so I just refreshed it. Maybe does that change anything?
Let's see if it was just maybe I missed it.
Signing us out.
Oh, nope, I see it.
Okay.
I see it.
Just
all right. All right. Are you guys ready?
Yes. We're live. Hi.
All right. Episode number 5 from Charlotte. I have 8 minutes for the intro. Ready? And 3, 2, 1, go. Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Whistle Down Wind Down with Crystal and Mara, a podcast dedicated to our favorite Netflix series, Bridgerton from Shondaland Media. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. So just in case you were looking for us again, find us everywhere. But before we get started, Mara, what's new with you since last time I saw you?
Hey, Crystal. So I have been discovering TikTok.
Oh.
TikTok is a very dangerous app because you can sense of time. Literally, it's the Matrix. And the most recent TikTok I saw earlier today, which was hilarious, was several farmers. How do I best put this? We're trying to agitate each other by letting each farmer know that they have backup. That's if trouble ever happens. And guess what they were referencing as part of their backup? It's not their crew. Well, no, it's their crew, but you would think like their homies or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, they said they got more chickens than you do. So you have all these farmers that are telling these other farmers like pull up, and they show their flock of chickens behind them as part of their crew. Girl, it is the funniest thing on TikTok right now. I saw it earlier today and that thing has just went viral. It's hilarious. So if anyone is seeing about farmers with chickens up there trying to come at each other sideways, they're talking about their crew of chickens ready to take off on each other. It's crazy stuff. But besides that, what's new with you?
I think what's new with me is just realizing that summer 2023 is real, right? It's happening. And I want to be outside, but I like being inside. There's a meme going around that says, I like to be outside, but I like to be in the house. So I want to be outside.
Okay. I like it.
It's one of those things. I got to go outside over the weekend to an event in Atlanta, and it was huge, and there was all these people, and I was just like, this might be too much. And so my plan is to still be outside, but it's a lot of reminding yourself what it used to be like. Just kind of, oh wow, like this used to be normal, right? We went from like nothing to like, oh yeah, now we're getting back, but now we're like back. And so it feels like the first summer out, and I'm excited and nervous at the same time. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's happening. But we'll see us. Find me on Instagram. Drop in the comments. Let's see. So let's get into it. Today, it's me and my girl Mara. I'm Crystal, a wannabe librarian who loves to get lost in a story, and a Shonda stan who constantly asks, does this make me a bad feminist?
I love a good romance novel, but thought Regency era fictions were my own guilty pleasure. I now know better.
And I'm Mara, a lover of British period dramas and a huge Jane Austen fan. If I could put myself anywhere, it would be in the writer's room at Shondaland to watch the magic happen. I didn't know there were others like me that enjoyed reading historical romance novels. I feel like I have found my people. So, folks, today we are talking about Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, Episode 5, Gardens in Bloom.
So grab a glass of wine, tea, or another favorite beverage, and let's get into it. Cheers.
Cheers, yay. All right, you ready to get into this quick bread, Crystal?
Yes. So funny. I do this all the time, but this is not Frollo.
This is
Like
not
when
what
I do it, it doesn't feel evil genius. But when we think about the Dr. Monroe, this feels very evil genius. So this is just good and tasty. Kind of like when you want a little sweet snack. So
good and tasty. I love it. I love it. You ready to get into this quick bet, Crystal?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So present day Queen Charlotte is becoming a matchmaker for her sons. Now remember, present day Queen Charlotte is trying to get a royal baby out of her 13 children, specifically from the men, her sons. They got a lot of love childs running around, but no legitimate babies. So she now is taking things into her own hands. Is Lady Danbury walking or rambling with Lord Ledger? Mama Bridgerton wants to get her groove back. I guess, her and Stella have been talking recently.
Uh-huh.
Our newly titled ton are in a rare predicament after the death of Lord Danbury. Crystal, Shonda Rhimes loves love. She just loves love.
Yes.
Can I take little Dominic home in the most loving way? Can I take him home? And just so adorable. If the queen says, let him be mad, we should just let him be mad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the queen says it's okay, I'm good with it too. And here is a fan theory. Beyonce is a fan of Queen Charlotte. And that is all the quick bread for today, y'all. Let's get into Pass the Scones.
I'm with it. Cheers, Mara. Everyone, grab a glass. Cheers. I like it. That was, not gonna lie. I was definitely surprised to be like, I said, is that a second Beyonce song? Did y'all just submit two at once? Or you were just like, how many can we get?
Thought that too, because I was like, wow. And again,
in one season?
It is strategically placed.
Yes.
Strategically placed. And it's right there where it needs to be. I said, I was like, oh, Beyonce watched the show. She does. Like, I'm convinced now. Like, her and Chris Bowers, they probably get together, randomly over the last couple of years. And he just mentioned it to her. And she was like, oh, yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
That's the story.
Yeah.
But as she should, though. This is a great show. This is an amazing show. So I hope that she is a fan. Why not? This is good stuff.
The queen bee watches the queen bee. That's all I'm saying.
That was fun. I like that one. That was good. All right, let's get to these scones. I will. Dang. So what's
up to snuff. No, you're right. I'm sorry. Pass the scones. We're doing
okay.
First, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
My first moment of enjoyment has to be Reynolds and Brimsley arguing.
Oh, lovers quarrel. I love it.
I really appreciated when Reynolds shows up. He's like, what? Like, first of all, why are you mad? But what? And then Brimsley's the one that's kind of like tell me something, like give me the information. And he's still not talking. And so Brimsley says, as much as I would love to stand here and help you find your words, I have duties to attend to, which it's like, it's such a simple sentence that specifically says, I have work to do, I don't have time to do this. But the way I heard it and felt it was just like, it was on that level of just like, are you ready to talk now?
Wait. Are you done or are you finished? And then walks away with the dog. Okay. I was just like, go ahead, King. Go ahead.
He was over it. And I loved it. Their exchange was perfect. So I just really appreciated, like, and it's funny, I put Reynolds and Brimsley, but I put R&B, and I'm like, oh, another R&B. I don't know if you guys watch This Is Us, but like Randall and Beth, and I was just like, ah. Anyway, so I love how this is another R&B argument. Like, just, you get frustrated, and we'll get into some of just Reynolds later on, but I just appreciated that scene for what it was on the multiple levels of relationship, lack of trust, and like, I'm asking you and you're still ignoring me. So I really appreciated that scene. All right, pass it back.
Reynolds needs to get it together. If not, he's going to lose his boo. Okay, so I am going to share this in my favorites, but I want to fire the makeup artist or the lighting department for this episode. Everybody about to be fired because there is no reason Lady Danbury's makeup should have looked the way that it looked when she was in the balcony in the opening scene of this episode talking to Mama Bridgerton.
I know what you're talking about.
That shade was not hers. And I'm trying to like put blame on both. It's makeup and it's the lighting department. Somebody messed up. You got like, they have had all this other time. They've been doing great. They've had over 2 seasons of kind of getting all the little, nicks and crannies taken care of. But because you guys are in a like shaded area, kind of shadowy area up in the balcony, watching the opera performance, we can't get the tone of the,
It's not with it, y'all.
Can't do that right. We can't.
Yikes.
Now I'm being very nice because I was cussing at the screen. I said, what that's not it. Whatever it is. And then on top of that, it got past how many other people and no one said anything?
Ooh.
They're lucky. This is the one error.
The sole error.
This is the sole error. So this series is 99% good. Don't get mad at me.
Y'all also put
the makeup department or the lighting department. They did it.
Okay, 99, 99.9. We gonna take a 0.01 for this one?
99.
Well, it's funny because it was very evident that they tried something new on Lady Danbury in this scene. Both the color and the look, because even like she never, from what we know about her, she's always in her red, she's always in her deep wine, she's always in that like burgundy ox blood, like that's her tone. And it plays up really well, like even just the furs, like she had the dark, she's on that dark side of the color spectrum, and that peach was like very shockingly bright, I guess. But I do remember like both times that I watched the episode going like, like I was like, ooh. So okay, I mean it is what it is.
You saw it too. I was like,
I get it.
Not a fan.
And then on the topic of love, in this story, I have to say Violet Bridgerton is my favorite character in this episode because the way she played her part, she is not gonna make it. She's at the museum fanning her, so she's like, I don't know. She does. It's kind of like she's having, because it's not menopause, right? It's her libido, but it's the fact that it's now kicking up, and she's just like, oh, like she don't know what to do. And I love the way that she played it. Like she was just like, her admission that she's like, I almost, did she say she was paying a footman?
She almost asked one of the footmen to come lay down with her.
Not lay down with her, lay on top of her.
Yes.
Girl, I said Violet. She was this close. When she left it out, she was kind of like, she said she called herself a danger. And I honestly, I think just the way that she played the role is what Mama Bridgerton is always a fun character in her scenes, but it's also just the way that she's kind of like, she's also shocked by it, because we already know in this world, we do not talk to women about womanhood. It just kind of happens to you. And so it's interesting to see her kind of like coming to the knowledge of like, oh my God, my garden is blooming. And in her own words, I want to be gardened. I want to be gardened as much as possible. Favorite. Check. Lady, I'm sorry, the Viscountess Bridgerton, the Dowager Viscountess Violet Bridgerton, phenomenal work today. Ruth Gemmell, thank you.
Absolutely. I definitely co-sign on that. Can I share with you a scene where I felt seen?
Oh, yes.
Even though this scene started off a little upsetting to watch, because it is the present day Queen Charlotte, all of a sudden waking up scared, calling for Brimsley, asking to find, trying to find out if her husband has passed away yet. And she's just like, something like woke her up out of her sleep. It's one of those like intuitions. Or at least maybe, it was like a false positive type thing. And Brimsley says, to my understanding, I haven't heard anything, but I will go double check. And he exits. Well, we see present day Queen Charlotte sitting at the edge of her bed on one of her benches, and her hair is wrapped in a protective hairstyle. And I felt seen. I said, yay. Therefore, I too am Queen Charlotte. My protective hairstyle, because trust me when I tell you, trying to keep this hair flat iron does not happen easily. You have to use certain methods to protect your hair through products and through wrapping your hair. That was one of the things where I felt sick.
I love that. And that scene was, I felt that first scene was very like, so one, woken out of your sleep in fear, being kind of like very like pulling. But the fact that there's something that has woken you from your sleep felt familiar. Because I feel like, and I don't know, this is just a cultural thing, I don't know where else it happens, but like people always talk about like they dreamt something, and like because of that dream they called someone else, or because of that dream they're like, something's up, they went and asked a question, and like being able to find truth in like whatever pulled you from your dreams. I actually just watched on my Netflix also has The Mind Explained, and they have an episode on dreams. There's all of their own scientific reasoning, and how it was very much in the beginning very much tied to everyone tied it back to like some type of godliness. But I still think that in many ways it's very interesting when people tell you about something that they dreamt, or like they wake up and they're just like, I heard something, or like I was woken up. And so it was hurtful, like it was painful to see that was what woke her up, but it was also familiar, and just like knowing that sometimes you're taken from your sleep for a reason, you would have to then kind of like check on it. And I don't know if it's happened to anybody before, but I've had the feeling once or twice where like I woke up and like I was like, what was that? And then checked my phone to see if I'd missed something, a message, and just to check in that like there wasn't anything wild that had happened to me, that like I guess since I had gone down to sleep. So it felt familiar, and I was just like, interesting. I don't know how many people like get that or feel that or like respond to that, because it's not just, oh, I woke up and something feels funny. It was like, no, I've been pulled from my sleep enough that I'm like, something has happened. Yeah, it felt very familiar. But yeah, that's such a, yeah, the dream, the whole waking up from the dream thing. It's very scary, but the other, so my last favorite is just the coupling of Lord Ledger and Lady Danbury. Because
Oh my goodness. I mean, did you see that coming when that like
so
I didn't see
I did like so no, I didn't see it coming. But in many ways, okay, from the time when he's like, oh, we're gonna be friends, I just thought that they would be like amicable. I thought that felt realistic because it also felt like he's just of a different mindset than his wife. So he actually is just like, he enjoys conversation, and he has a level of respect that you kind of don't expect to see or you don't get credit for. But I'm trying to think of when I was just like, oh, hold on a second. I think it had to be that first walk when they first kind of bumped into each other and they had like this like comfortable talk. Part of me was just like, she just lost her husband. I said, but she really like him like that. I said, but he's married. And so it's kind of just like, oh, there's so many things that are in the way here. But it's Shondaland. So I was just like, oh, Shonda cares nothing about what the situation is. So shout out to the writers in the writer room that were like, we got this, don't worry. I'm curious. I'll be curious to see like how that shows up in the book, in their relationship and how they interacted for them to get to that point. And yeah, and I actually have a question in Up to Snuff that I feel like I know the answer, but I'm still gonna ask it anyway. But yes.
One of my favorite scenes is when who is it? It's Georgie, Edward, and the other brother. It's the three sons that go in and see present day Queen Charlotte.
Oh, and yes, the Prince of Wales, the sovereign regent or whatever is
correct. Correct. And the two sons are saying, well, our older brother, Georgie actually, Georgie is regent, in place of father. So he's the one that is supposed to give his blessing for this. And present day Queen Charlotte's like, oh, you know what? You're right. And she just straight up played them like, just played them horribly. And Georgie folded like a chair at a church function when it's time to go. That thing went. he gave one of his brothers like one of the, all right now, and I'm gonna head out.
Georgie, that was a very well done scene. I love that.
But did you see her hair though? Like the room was hers. That, and they looked like they were invading her space. Like that whole room belonged to her, from the hair to the dress to the background. That they really stood out. Like, y'all not supposed to be here. Why are y'all bothering this woman? So
they came to be like, Mom. You can't tell me what to do. Georgie didn't say I had to do it. And part of me is like, also, why wouldn't y'all have had the talk with Georgie ahead of time to be like, Georgie, just tell Mom? Like, it felt like they just thought he was just going to side with them. And they had no clue that, like, your mom's going to get what she wants. Like, why would you think you could just be like, we're going to bring Georgie in here and he's going to tell Mom no? Georgie ain't say no to his mama. Prayers, sorrows. Like, sorrows, prayers.
Sorrows, prayers.
Poor things. They tried though. They did.
They tried it.
Goodness. All right. You think we're good to move into Up to Snuff? I do have a question.
I think we are. I think we are. We're ready to go for up to snuff, but just one honorable mention, and I don't know if this will be part of up to snuff or not, but I really love the monologue between present day Queen Charlotte and her son. I think it's Edward. It wasn't the blonde one, it was the dark-haired son that
With the I don't know what that was.
sideburns, girl,
The sideburn into the I don't know.
don't talk. I loved it. And he was genuine. He says, well, I'm not worried about being with her. I'm worried about loving her. I don't know if I know how to love.
Mm-hmm.
He did this like awesome speech. I had to write it down. And this is why we need writers for shows. And no disrespect to reality television, and I'm not a prude. I've had my time with reality shows. I even still watch a couple. But when it comes to scripted shows, we need writers. And I hope to God these studio heads get their act together, get a contract together so that we can get these writers back in the writer room, because that full conversation those two had together, like I literally wrote it out because I thought it was just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Well, I love it. I think that is up to snuff. So in our introduction to Up to Snuff, I would love for you to read that out to us before we start. Everyone, please grab your glass of tea, wine, or whatever your favorite beverage is. And shout outs to you. Cheers to that.
Mm. So
Yes.
of course, I will not. I can't hold a glass to the actress that plays Queen Charlotte, but I will try my best. I will sacrifice my foolishness and try and recreate. Queen Charlotte says, "Love is determination. Love is a choice one makes. You take someone in marriage and you choose to love them. You do not give yourself any other option, because marriage itself is difficult. It's full of pains. The life of a royal is lonely. So you grab someone and you hang on. You love, and you love hard, because if you do not, you are lost."
I don't know. Is there a violin? Like that was beautifully done. We talked about that came up in conversation in the Whistle Down Wind Down Lounge as well, of like this note around marriage and what that really is or what that looks like. And I kind of appreciate their ability to kind of like frame it in that way, because it doesn't apply to just royals. And I know we've talked about this before. Love is definitely a choice one makes. It doesn't just kind of like show up because, you know, it's one of those in spite of decisions you make in life. But yeah, that was really beautiful. And I appreciated the fact that we had that moment of him kind of going to his mom, like, Mom, I'm scared.
He was. I mean, I think if there is one person that he can be vulnerable in front of, if for all intents and purposes, it would be your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And to be vulnerable and share what your insecurity is about yourself.
I agree.
Tough conversation.
Tough, but it's on here. Oh, I love it. Speaking of vulnerability, dang, both of them are in there. So we're gonna talk about Lady Danbury and we're gonna talk about Mama Bridgerton. But speaking of vulnerability from Lady Danbury's standpoint, I thought we'll kind of go from the back to the front, but here's just the thought that I was like, Chris, anyway, the question is, in her scenario, right, where Lady Danbury welcomes this man into her home and has this, forget to when they get to where they get to. The thing though is that where was her staff? Coral is always right behind her. So where was Coral? Where was the rest of the staff? She always leaves around the same time for her ramblings. And it was shocking to me that nobody was present. That was odd. Then two, there's like this ethereal kind of like coloring happening in the background. I'm like, is it just the end of the day? She doesn't usually leave at this time. Like, what's really happening here? And so I was like, did this happen? Like, I know she got a hat from the man.
I wonder what she's pointing at.
Oh, me?
Okay, you're back. Fantastic.
Oh, no. I cut out?
Yeah, just for like a hot second. You got frozen like this, and I was just about to start adding some fillers. But go ahead. Can you ask your question again, though?
So the question I think that I had, don't judge me, y'all. Do we think that Lady, safe space, do we think that Lady Danbury's encounter with Ledger was in her fantasy, in her mind? Was there a portion of that was the, I don't know. I just feel like I'm like, was this a dream sequence? Is kind of what came up for me. Only because of the fact that I'm just like, I said, how is it no one on staff is around? And also the lighting, I'm like, isn't it sundown? Isn't the sun going down? She doesn't usually go for a walk and the sun's going down. They go earlier in the day. So how did that really happen? So there were just some couple of little things that I'm just like, this is out of place. And so I was just like, so did they have a relationship? Was it an ongoing relationship? Did they never get to that point? Like, there was a lot of questions that came up. And so I just wanted to know your thoughts. If you thought it was real, or is it possible that it wasn't?
Are you saying that, was it a dream sequence that was happening when we saw Lady Danbury getting busy with Lord Ledger? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
No, that was real. She was having an affair.
Okay. Was she though?
I mean,
would that qualify?
She wasn't. He was, because he's married. She's a widow. So he's having an affair with her. But to be honest, that was something kind of common among the aristocrats during that time. I mean, it wasn't exactly ideal. It wasn't.
I mean, wasn't it though? Because she lived right next door.
I mean, it does look like that she lived right next door. I don't know if she lived right next door, but it was kind of part of the culture sometimes that aristocrats would sleep with folks' wives and husbands. So it wasn't exact, because I mean, think about it. The only reason why they didn't kiss that first time in front of the cabin was because Lord Ledger pulled back. Lady Danbury was ready to go.
Well, wait, we don't know. She didn't get an opportunity to pull back. So just because he pulled back first doesn't mean she went and caught herself and been like, hold on, Agatha. I don't really know.
Okay, we're calling her by first names. Okay.
No, this season she's Agatha.
She's Agatha. To me, Agatha looked disappointed when Lord Ledger.
She was. I agree. I think she was. I definitely think she was.
I mean, I don't think that she went out looking for him, because honestly, I think him could have been anybody else that was kind to her, that she thought was attractive, that was being nice to her.
You think it could have been anybody attractive and nice?
Yeah, I don't think that her and Lord Ledger were like star-crossed lovers. I think that they were lovers according to proximity to each other, because that's right, their properties
they abut
right next to each other. So I think that they were lovers by proximity.
That's okay. That might be one for people to give some input on. So one, I'm going to just give away my dream sequence theory, because I know I'm the only one. I know I'm not. The world's too big. There's somebody else. If you're that person, let me know so we can be that prequel together. But I do think that there is a question there about like, is it just because of they happen to be in unfortunate relationships in the same place, and therefore they found some kind of like consolence with each other? Like, is it just that?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, because Lord Ledger, said that it didn't sound like he was in a good situation with him and his wife.
Yeah, but then why? Is it just because Lady Danbury was available?
I think because she was the neighbor.
She thinks she was the neighbor.
I really believe it was like because of proximity. But that's a good question, though.
That's a question. Y'all come let us know please let us know what you think about that one. That's a okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So I let go of my dream sequence idea. But yeah, I'm curious what other people think about that one. That's a good one. Is it just a proximity thing, or do they really like each other? And this was just like forbidden love. You know what I'm saying? Because they wouldn't have crossed beforehand. They wouldn't have crossed paths beforehand.
They did, because Lady Danbury and his wife are the ladies in waiting for the queen. So that's one interaction.
So no, I'm saying in the sense of like, if the Queen Charlotte had not become queen and they had expanded her court, they would never, their paths they would have never paid attention to each other, because they would have been in their, our side, which was very common throughout this.
Absolutely.
Huh. Interesting. Something to think about. I still like them as a couple, though they were super cute. All right. So before, I do have another question, but did you have one before
I don't have a pressing one. So if you have one, go for it.
All right. So this whole time we've been seeing the relationship between Reynolds and the king. Reynolds is also in distress because he doesn't have the power to do what he wants, and he's trying to like obey the king's wishes, but at the same time he doesn't like what he's saying. Is Reynolds wrong in not asking for help? Because Brimsley has constantly been offering him assistance. He's like, work with me, we can work together. Is is Reynolds in the right, or is he in the wrong in this?
To be honest, I think Reynolds is between a rock and a hard place. The hard place is his lover and his co-worker, right? Because these two work together. These two know their responsibilities to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hard place is his duty to the king.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue to respect that privacy. I'm still trying to figure out, is it privacy or privacy? So yeah, so those are the things that I think that Reynolds is just caught between, a rock and a hard place. Brimsley said it best. I believe it was within the episode that all the staff, including the queen, all live to serve the king. That is what their role is. Their livelihood is based on it. So whatever the king needs anything the king needs to best support him, they will do. And that is part of Reynolds' role. I think it was just a tough situation for him. I do believe that Brimsley helped to empower him to utilize his influence. For instance, about the gesture. For instance, about a point where Reynolds barges into I guess what the doctor's office. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
Where the king
his torture chamber.
Chamber, like I hate to say that. But his conversation with Brimsley is like a fire in his belly, because it sounds like Reynolds wants to do these things, but he feels restricted from it. But Brimsley is kind of putting that little bit of fire underneath him to encourage him, to empower him. You say you love the king, you say you want to be there for him. If the king being with the queen is something that, is going to be something that'll be helpful for both of them, then we need to do something. Something.
So such a graceful response to that question, because I was upset with Reynolds. I'm like, Reynolds, just talk to Brims. I'm like, please, just give him something. You don't have to give him everything, but give him I felt like he wasn't people are offering you the help, take the help. But that's such a good response. Just understanding that there's a lot of sides to the story, and it's not an easy answer. And so, you're right, girl. Dang. I was struggling with Reynolds. I'm like, because Brimsley's like, bro, okay. He was frustrating me to the umpteenth.
Oh, look, my heart goes out to Reynolds. My heart goes out to Brimsley, because they're seriously caught in the middle.
They are.
They're damned if they do. They're damned if they don't. One of the scenes that comes to mind is when Brimsley calls Reynolds to come out to the house, to Buckingham House, I think first thing in the morning, making it sound really urgent. And Brimsley takes Reynolds into the master bedroom, the king's bedroom, and shows that the wall has been scrubbed down, because now Brimsley is desperate. He is seeing, and I'm just doing my own narrative, he is seeing the queen losing her light within her. She's pregnant, she's hormonal, she has her mother-in-law there, her brother is now there. And the irony is that maybe for most situations, women would not want to be with their significant other, but in this situation, she wants to be with him, except he is keeping himself away from her. And she does not understand why. And she's doing a lot of internalizing thoughts. She's thinking that it's her, something's wrong with her, she has a deficit, he doesn't love her. And we'll talk about that later on. But because of this distance between them, and so back to Brimsley seeing all these things, because of course he is representing the point of view of the queen. He shows Reynolds, look, we've watched the walls. I'll talk to the garden people not to be out there. We'll put screens up. Whatever needs to be done to get him back here, we'll do it. Yeah. And one of the things that I had mentioned was this is an example of Brimsley inspiring Reynolds to empower him to move on those feelings and those actions that he wants to do, because he does want to. You can tell it's in his eyes. It's not necessarily in his actions, but you can tell in his eyes and his facial expressions every time he goes down to that dungeon, that torture dungeon, and know that his king, but not only his king, but one of his childhood best friends is self-inflicting this on him because he thinks something's wrong with him. Reynolds likely is having all this internal turmoil going on, and at the same time he's also trying to protect the king the best way he can.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's craziness, and a lot of conflict of interest.
Yeah. This was one of those episodes that they had a lot of kind of two-sided speak with, I think at one point, Lady Danbury, when everyone comes to meet her, she has visitors, and everyone's like, you're the first.
Yes.
Not y'all all in here, but we're sorry for your loss. We understand that you're mourning, but we're still sorry for your loss, but right, it's kind of this, I'm saying this because it's that politeness, right? So I can't say anything left, but at the same time, are you understanding me? Because I need you to do something.
Mhm.
But the biggest thing that at least the correlation that I saw in this episode, particularly as it related to the women, and I think in many ways Bridgerton feels like a manifesto of like women's empowerment, and also just like even with the struggle of like control and power, women will always kind of like figure out a way. But it's also like a reminder of like, why is it that this is constantly the way? You always have to figure it out. You know, we're fighting for some type of level of control. But the correlation that I saw between the two was that Charlotte is trapped, in essence, in this agreement, or whatever you want to call the marriage that she currently has. And we see it right from the beginning, where like no one congratulates her for the fact that she's carrying the king's heir. As she's just essentially a tree, as her brother calls it. And then she says, like, my body is his, is it not? That being like, she's being constantly reminded that nobody cares about her. She's just here to pop out this baby. Until they need her again, which is what the Dowager Princess said to her. And that was kind of like one piece of it. And then the other part was like now seeing Lady Danbury having to now take her adorable Dominic, her adorable 4-year-old son, to go establish his presence and like, oh yes, I'm here. And it's her having to kind of like pick up all the pieces, right? Things were not established or set in stone by her husband. So now she has to be the one to then go and ensure that she establishes this line and they don't lose everything in a generation. And it was that kind of like the response from the solicitor saying to her, where is it? He said to, like, she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? He said, seek the kindness of male relatives or remarry. Those were her options. And so it's like neither of them have the freedom to do what they want because of this world that it's very patriarchal. And it was just interesting to see all of that happen at the same time. So there's no question in that, but it was just very much a good, for me, like just picture of just like what womanhood translates into as it relates to family, ownership, power, money, and then, you know, children and heirs. So
to segue into that, just sidebar, I really thought that you were going to quote Little Kim, power, money, respect. I was waiting for that. I need you to finish that line next time.
got it.
Shout out to all my 90s hip hop fans. But to segue into that, so I think you said, I believe that you summed it up perfectly. So both of these women are finding out the limitations of their powers. They are finding out the maze that they are in, and they do not see any exits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's damn near hopeless type situations that are going on. But what is one of the things that can help bring you out of these feelings of hopelessness and feeling as though you lost your way?
Mm-hmm.
A visit with your bestie and
yes,
having a conversation, sharing your woes, sharing on how the world is kind of like beating you up right now, and then encouraging each other.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, Lady Agatha is empowering Charlotte. Charlotte is able to like, you know what? I'm out. I got this now.
Mm-hmm. She left there brand new.
She left there brand new. And I hate to give it to the Dowager Princess, but the conversation that Agatha needed to hear needed to have come from the Dowager Princess.
Which conversation are we talking about?
It is the conversation where the Dowager Princess got upset with Agatha for crying. Like, don't do that. Don't start crying.
Is that this episode?
Isn't it?
Girl, look at me. I'm just like, was I missed it? Did I step away?
Is it
Either way,
this
I think that their main encounter was when she brought Dominic, and she was about to call him Lord Danbury, and then both Butte and I forget the other man's name.
That's the second visit though, because remember, there's two visits. There's one with Dominic,
Mhm.
and the second visit is where she's having tea with her. Did
I'm like, did I miss this? My bad, y'all.
okay. So anyway, reverse coming back. So Agatha, so what helps you bring up your spirits is having tea with your bestie, kind of allowing the walls to fall down, showing a little bit of vulnerability. And even in that moment, even though Queen Charlotte is upset with her husband, she will always protect him. She protects him the entire time.
Yes.
After she finds out what's going on with him, or is now starting to get an understanding, even when her brother asks her, "Oh, what's going on with the king?" "Oh, he's fine." Agatha, same thing. She says, "I can't tell you what's going on, but I can tell you that I feel like I've been lied to." And Agatha comes in and pours in that wisdom. She's pouring in that comfort, that sisterhood comfort to her, and letting her know, oh, wait, did I write this one down? Hold on, because I loved it. Let's see. Agatha says, if we are ever to live the lives we want, we have to make them, and she's referencing men, we have to make them conceive it. And so paraphrasing, if you want to see change, you have to make the change happen yourself.
Yeah.
And
or push it along a little bit.
And after that very next scene, Queen Charlotte arrived, and I love this scene. I love this scene so hard. Queen Charlotte comes back to Buckingham House, right? Yes, Buckingham House. Her brother, he's such a late bloomer. He's not picking up on everything. He's saying something that triggers her. And the only thing she said was Brimsley. Why did Brimsley knew what she meant by just a word?
Yes, their communication has gotten better. And you can see that, like, he's already kind of like, I got you. Like, he was ready to go. Like, it's true. They did not communicate the same way they like to communicate with Hems and like, I can't stand it. But the same way they did that, her Brimsley, he was just like, yep, don't move it. And her brother's like, what?
Like, how do you know? Their shorthand communication is fantastic. And Queen Charlotte showing up to Q, asking Reynolds, where is her husband? And Dr. Monroe comes out, like, she looked absolutely royal. Like, she's looked more royal than anybody that's part of that British monarchy. Like, she looks way more royal. And she says, what she tell Dr. Monroe? She was like, I will kill, well, basically tell him, I'll kill you, or I'll hang you, or like, I'll behead you, or something like that. Like, she was ready to get rid of him. She was done with him.
It was definitely it was not a veiled threat. It was a very it was very aggressive. Not, I don't want to say aggressive, but it was it was honest. She was just like, now is not the time. And then she said, remove him immediately.
She said, you are done. You are done now. I also wanted just to add one other thing. It's been 3 Beyonce songs. I think earlier, either in this episode we mentioned it, or I think we mentioned it in episode 4. It's Beyonce's Halo, Deja, and Girls Run the World.
Yes, dang. She got 3 in this season?
She got 3 in this John. Okay, sorry, I gotta be careful.
Hey. All right. One thing we didn't talk about, which I just really appreciated, is the gardens in bloom, right? We had Violet going through it, and sharing again. It was a lot about the sisterhood. This episode, and I've written down like check on your strong friend. Like this was the one where these are strong women. They have it together, right? They're moving along in life. They have their system in place. Excuse me. And it was one where like sometimes you need somebody to talk to. Lady Danbury, homegirl of homegirls, shut down the museum. She's like, we have it for ourselves, so you can do this more comfortably. What? That sweetest thing ever. And then they got to talk about it, and I think the part that I appreciated in this story was their discussion around how like womanhood and kind of like the way that the stories are told. It's like we get to the point where like women and we see this in the Regency era world, all of these young girls who have been entering their debut at what, like 7 and 10, like, or 10 and 7, what is it, 7 and 10? So how they're entering in their teenage years, and then they get married, and then they live happily ever after. They have a bunch of kids, and then they become the mamas who's the focus of the story now switches to their children, and we have no other correlation to like what happens to them afterwards. And so I appreciated like the sharing, and I didn't pull any of the language out of the wording that was used, because again, the writers are phenomenal. I was like, at this point, I'm just like gonna start rewriting, rescripting. I'm transcribing now. But it was just the fact that they were just like, this doesn't stop. Like your womanhood continues. There's no like, you got to this point and it's over. And that was just, I just appreciated like the breadth of womanhood that we get to discuss that we don't discuss, because it's for whatever reason, you stop right here. We can't do anymore. And it made me think of speaking to the desires of mature women is what we talked about, or what they kind of got into. It made me think of the story Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory, where her main character is 54 years old in the story. And it was such a treat to be like, oh, like you're talking about people who are just like, yeah, that's like, they're not going out late and did it. Like it was more realistic, like doing what you like to do, like being set in who you are as a person. And it was so nice to hear that storytelling and have the main character be a mature adult woman, right? Not this, the young, I don't know, I'm looking for validation, none of that. So just overall, really appreciated the fact that they brought that in, and got to like tell that story. And I really hope that the women that are watching feel heard and seen. I hope that feels like a seen moment for a lot of women.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope that they carry on that storyline on if Mama Bridgerton,
Ooh!
if she follows through on her contemplation.
Oh, you're right. Season 3, well, I guess that would be season 4, but season 3 of Bridgerton. Okay, maybe.
I'd love to see it, but one can only hope. One can only hope.
Ooh, all right. Well, I think we're wrapping it up at this point, but I want to know what y'all think would be like Lady Bridgerton's type. I want to know who y'all think Mama Bridgerton should be looking for.
That's a great question.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think it would be awkward. That's if she went for like the same type of guy that her husband was, because then we like, And would she go for a younger guy?
Y'all, I want to hear what you think. Okay, let us know in the comments or come find us in the chat. All right, Mara, you want to take us out of here?
Absolutely. And on that note, that's it for us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a review. Want to keep the conversation going? You can find us in the Whistle Down, Wind Down Lounge on Facebook. We'll see you soon for episode 6. crown jewels. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Ooh, Mama Bridgerton.
Mama Bridgerton.
You